Good morning, everyone. It's Tess, and today's going to be tip 223, and I think I'm just going to call it communication. Again, like I said, last week I was spending some time going over some of my notes and reading books because I was out of power, and something kind of came up talking about like actions and telling people what you're doing and whether they support you, and what do you do if somebody's not on board with what you do? So basically, it kind of all stemmed around the idea of communication. Hi, you, Pandra. Good to see you this morning. So I thought today I would just kind of talk about communication. Good morning, good morning. And kind of, again, like I said, I've been looking through a lot of the notes from Doc V for the past year and a half, and just kind of reminding myself and keeping myself engaged, because that's what this is all about, is staying engaged in the journey and continuing to move forward. And it kind of made me think about, in one of the things that we had from, if we're in the 500s now for daily lives with Doc V, everything that I looked at last week was like from 1 to 100, and one of them he was kind of talking about, this was a good way to think about these small steps that we all need to make. He was talking about fish, and that if you were a small fish, you can kind of maneuver around better, communicate better, make adjustments better, and increase your path and move down your path. And then he kind of referred to a big fish, and that a big fish tends to be more clumsy as it's moving around. It tends to get parasites on its back, and it tends to have difficulty maneuvering the waters. Good morning, Joan. Good to see you. And I thought that was such an interesting analogy that he had, but it's kind of true. Like in life, everyone thinks they want to be this big fish, but what they don't understand is that big fish takes on a lot of baggage, takes on a lot of parasites, and it has more difficulty moving through the water. And now we're at our stage when we're beginning, and maybe we haven't had a lot of people jump on board. We're a little bit more agile, we're a little bit quicker, we don't have people that have jumped on, and we can keep kind of swimming down the river, so to speak. But in these talks around that period of time, which was in the 70s for the first 100 days of Doc V, he was talking about like communication and keeping yourself motivated to go forward no matter what's happening around you. And he was kind of like even talking about like, one, we want to keep our path moving forward. Two, we don't want to take on a lot of other people's I don't want to call it garbage or trash, but we don't want to take on their baggage. And as we're moving down our path, we need to keep our communication open, and we need to keep our minds open to the idea that if we have people in our pathways that are not supporting our journey, we have to just accept them for what they're saying, not try to change them, and keep moving down our path. Kind of like, and I've heard this many times over the past year and a half, if somebody tells you something, believe them. We have to stop trying to change people and stop trying to get them on board with what we're doing, and stop trying to be responsible for other people's actions. We have only one person or only one fish that we can direct in the sea, only one fish that we can prepare for whatever the future holds. When somebody reaches out to us and wants to hear our journey or wants us to share, then by all means we can share. But that doesn't mean we take responsibility for them. They have to decide to take the steps. And I thought it was so interesting. Our actions speak louder than our words. We can say a million times we're making changes, but if we don't make the changes, it's pointless. People in our lives, if they're not supporting us, then we have to believe the words, whether they're spoken or unspoken. We have to accept them as they are and keep ourselves moving forward. It says not everyone is going to believe you, and it's going to be your actions that show. So in the same way that when we're looking at someone else, we have to accept that their actions are showing us where they're headed. We have to act in a way so that those around us know our commitment to our journey by our actions, by the things that we do. And those are going to be, sometimes they're harder for people, sometimes they're easier. I've spoken in one of my lives in Doc V's Transform Your Life group that I come from a family where my mom made homemade bread. Now, I'm not talking about bread machine bread. I'm talking about pound it down right back to square one. Will I on occasion have a small piece of it? Yeah. Can I eat it like I used to? No. Homemade pickles was something that we used to have. I can barely eat any of that now because it doesn't sit well with my stomach. Well, the communication is I just had to be open and say, I know you know this was one of my favorites. It's just something I can't eat anymore. It just doesn't, it makes me uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. So I think that communication idea, that what he was talking about, your actions have to speak to support your words. And maybe that's something we can all take a look at. Am I doing what supports my words? Because sometimes I think the words come to us faster than what our actions support the words. So as each day goes on, maybe that's something to think about. What am I going to work on today? Where are my words? What have my words been lately? Meaning, what do I want to do? And am I making my actions support those words? And it's hard to, it can be hard to do. And I think sometimes we don't realize it. And maybe that if we're not matching our words, maybe that's why some people try to, what we think is sabotage us, and what we don't realize is that our communication has led them to believe we're not really serious about it. So for me, that's something I'm going to look at, and I thought I would share it with you guys, that I'm going to try to be really careful in watching. Am I saying, and are my actions meeting? Or do I need to do some cleanup there so that the people around me believe what I'm saying? Because as these talks around this period of time said, are our actions supporting our words? Are we living what we say we're living? Back to like a parent, practice what you preach. It's really hard for a child to believe you shouldn't smoke if you've got a cigarette in your mouth when you're telling them not to smoke. I think the same thing as a parent. If you're telling a child you need to be healthy while you're eating a donut, that's kind of hard for them to believe. So for me, I'm going to tighten down and take a look. Are there areas where my actions aren't meeting my words? Because I know that the people around me will support me stronger if they have a belief that my actions and my words are meeting, and that they are headed down a path together. And if people aren't seeing that, then that's my shortcoming. And then I'm going to also remember that I'm here to support anyone who wants my help, but I have to let them make their journey. If their actions and their words aren't meeting, I have to let them work that out for themselves, because all that's going to happen is I'm going to make them angry if I try to tell them. I'll be there for them if they need me, but they have to do the work to get their actions and words together, and they have to make the commitment to the journey, because maybe it is a blessing in disguise. The only person I can fix is me. I can care for, love, and be there for all the people in my life, but the only person I have any ability to try to influence or make better is myself. And then the hope is that by making myself better, I can open the door for others to maybe take the steps to make their lives better. Because at the end of the day, I would love for us all to have the most amazing life, but each one of us has to take our independent path and make our actions and our dreams and our wishes and our thoughts all come together, so that we're working down that path, shooting, redirecting, as Doc V always says. So think about that communication. Is the communication internally? Is your communication of what you say and what your actions do meeting? Because that's the first step. If they aren't, you've got to make sure that your words and your actions meet. Because until they do, the people on the outside world are going to see that you're in conflict, and they're not going to know how to support you. So I hope you guys have a beautiful day, and think about today. Are your actions supporting your words? Are you pulling yourself together so that you're moving forward on your journey? I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you guys for being there for me. I appreciate you very, very much. And make your swim down the river today beautiful. And thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.